thank you for joining us. And now I have the opportunity to welcome the first speaker of the keynote session, who happens to be me. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Joseph Reger. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Fujitsu's business in EMEIA, and I'm also one of the Fujitsu Fellows. Fujitsu Fellows are the the highest echelon of the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers Program, and we gathered here at Warwick University for our annual conference, and the topic of the conference, the main theme is digital transformation. Digital transformation has been around as a term for quite a while now, and one of the remarkable things about it is that it's not very clear what it means. Given that it's ravingly popular, it is really interesting that there are no precise definitions of what it means. There are papers on it, of course. Consulting companies like to write papers about that, but there's no clear definition. The digital part is rather clear, is it not? The digital transformation is really a process in which business technologies and IT technologies meet with operational technologies. So BT, OT, IT meet together, and that in that big meeting, digital transformation is possible. It is very widespread, and the services that are being put out now by companies for digital transformation are sometimes, well, at least, at first glance, look like old-fashioned services of old times. And that's sort of natural. Every time when we have a new wave in IT or business technologies, it is obvious that companies will rearrange or sometimes just repaint the elements of the portfolio and call them digital. This is why large companies are claiming that 60% of their services are already digital services. That can be, depending on how you want to look at it. I think for us here in the room, it is important to understand that digital transformation is first and foremost a transformation. And because it is a transformation, there are huge consequences. And we will be discussing these consequences in business life, in private life, and there will be aspects to that. Our second keynote speaker, Eddie O'Bannon, will be touching upon some of these aspects of it, what digital transformation means, could mean, should mean for us, and I'll just have very quick introductory comments to it. So it is a transformation. It is a business term, really, but it's fueled and driven by technology development, so this is how these two meet. And I have to say that 2 years now in the going, I still like to stick with the original idea that came about 2 years ago of trying to pick a word to describe it properly, and that word is digitalization as a verb, as opposed to digitization. I know I have the whole world against me. Most of the British would say that's not proper English. You go to the Oxford Dictionary and it says digitalization, same as digitization. Well, it isn't, I would say, but there are the authority. And McKinsey is using digitization going on. I don't like it. I insist that digitization is a digital conversion of something like music or books or whatever. It's a digital conversion only. And digitalization, that's my suggestion, should mean the full power of the digital transformation, meaning changing and transforming everything that it touches. So it's not just digital conversion, it's digital transformation altogether. And what that means in terms of the business processes, that it changes every fundamental aspect of business, every component of the business. It's not just that it uses some networking and there's a bit of internet here and there. It is changing the entire value chain It changes what a product is to be. It changes lifecycle management. It changes the operations. It changes the operational model. In many cases, it changes the entire business model, the business value proposition of the company. It changes the business entirely, end to end, in the long value chain. And because of that, it's a sweeping change for everybody and every company. Certainly there are efficiency aspects of it, like the previous waves of IT. There are efficiency, like this is now faster, this is now better, that we've got more data, we can do more. That aspect exists as well. However, for the first time ever in the history of IT and the IT waves, this is not just a cosmetic or efficiency, and this is a fundamental transformation that changes businesses, takes away the business opportunity from some businesses, and more importantly, provides a new business opportunity for others. The purpose or the goal of digital services in such a setup is tremendously important, and this is our job to define new types of digital services and deliver them to our customers so that they can put it to good business use. We'll come to that later. Now, just quickly, I'd like to say that the possibilities for digital services of all kinds and digital transformation are enormous. And this community has done a very good job, and thank you for that, demonstrating to customers what the possibilities could be. Admittedly, we don't know everything. It's not that, we can tell customers, just come to us and we'll tell you what to do. That's not that easy. This is a difficult step. However, our job as Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers community within Fujitsu is to work with customers and show them what technology can do and what the new possibilities are, where we can break down barriers of all kinds, and then in discussion with customers, figure out what the life or business-changing aspect of the transformation for them could be. So that's a particular role for the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers, and that's, by the way, the methodology that's called within Fujitsu co-creation. That's a cooperation with the customer in a process where the business aspects are, by and large, represented by the customer, and the technology aspects are, by and large, represented by Fujitsu, in particular by you, the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers community. Now, if you ask yourself, why is this such a good time to do that? Because everybody's saying that this is a good time, this is a real good time to do the digital transformation. There are two reasons for that. One of them is trivial. The trivial reason is that this is the nature of our industry. As you know, almost everything that we do has an exponential character to that. You might argue that the underlying principle is Moore's law. Fine. Everything seems to be accelerating exponentially. And those of you who recall math will remember that the exponential curve is such that if you turn around and look back, what happened in the past is nothing in comparison to what you have now, and in particular what's coming at you. That's the nature of exponentials, and therefore, obviously, everything that we do currently is more sweeping, more deep, more everything than what we used to do. So that's the trivial reason for digital transformations. Good time to be implemented. The other reason is that it's not so trivial, is that we seem to live in lucky times. In the sense that there are enough technologies around. Of course, everything will be getting better. We all know that, and we all hope that. However, there seem to be enough technologies around that we can do incredibly useful things with what we have already. So that is something I call a lucky circumstance in technology development. And if you're a consultant, or the consultants call that the nexus of forces, or something like that, that it means the same thing essentially. But we do have enough to do very useful projects. Business innovation in these days is very rarely inhibited by the lack of technologies. There's always something that we can do. That doesn't mean at all, and that's very relevant for this group of people, the distinguished engineers, that doesn't mean at all that we don't need, in some cases, more of something. Say even more compute power. There's well, not new, but there's a field that's coming back for the fifth time, probably, called artificial intelligence, and our first external keynote speaker will talk about that. And in artificial intelligence or machine learning, and let me not do the delineation between the two, it requires an hour. This machine learning, at least some algorithms are such that in the learning phase, that's actually computationally quite intensive. Because if the model is deep enough and complicated enough, that it actually requires a lot of computational power. So even the question of CPU cycles and their availability in a computer are important. And you have seen the announcement, Fujitsu is working in many aspects of this question as a technology company. We even do things like looking at the parallel nature of these algorithms on an array of compute engines and trying to trick Amdahl's law. For those of you who don't recall who Gene Amdahl was, Gene Amdahl died last year, November, and he used to be an IBM mainframe engineer, then founded his own company of compatible mainframes, and Fujitsu acquired that company. Our Sunnyvale campus in California, East Arcaz, is the old Amdahl campus, really. So Gene Amdahl is important to us. And his law, Amdahl's law, in difference to Moore's law, is a real law in the sense that you can derive it from something. And it's very simple math. And what it tells you is that if you do parallel computation but have serial parts left in the problem, they are going to determine what kind of speed up you're getting. In translation, what this means, if you have 64 compute engines, that doesn't mean that you're getting a 64 times speed up of whatever you are doing, and that same thing applies to deep learning models of artificial intelligence too. And our people in Japan are making efforts to accelerate and optimize these algorithms because we need more power. The other way of doing that is to build large, incredibly powerful machines. Now, Fujitsu's last large and incredibly powerful machine was the K computer, as you all recall, and that was a couple of years ago now. There is serious work being carried out within Fujitsu for the next generation of very powerful supercomputers dubbed post-K computers, and we have representatives of the labs from Fujitsu Japan, and they will be presenting about the project this afternoon. There's lots of other stuff that needs to happen too. We need better algorithms and more understanding, and in particular, we need some ways of understand what these self-learning systems actually learn. Those of you who attended the Fujitsu Forum last year in Munich, I spoke about open source, and I said one of the advantages of using open source is its audibility, that you can actually look at the code of somebody who understands it and do a proper audit and make sure that it does what it is supposed to do. That's still an advantage, but if you have an open source package for artificial intelligence and that package learns something, you can audit the code, but not what it has learned. Because if it's an unsupervised learning, it's very difficult to figure out what the system actually has learned. So auditability is becoming an issue, and we've got to make some advances in that area as well. With that, I'm giving hints that this is not exactly an easy ride in every aspect, and since artificial intelligence, again, the next keynote will be discussing aspects of it, it's posing very special difficulties and challenges in the whole area of digital transformation. Now, what I would like to do is look at a number of dimensions of the digital transformation process and challenge, and just mention them with reference to the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers Program. And I'd like to do that in a number of dimensions. The first dimension I'd like to do is what the digital transformation will do in the infrastructure. Some parts of our company are very clearly infrastructure-oriented. We are very strong in that, so we've got to have a very strong and clear notion of what's going to happen to the infrastructure in IT. That's not what I mean here, that will come later. What I mean is the infrastructure of mankind. The infrastructure of mankind is such that it's by and large analog. And in particular, where we live, or most of us live, that's not the America's delegates, but the EMEIA delegates will know that our infrastructure is quite old. It's quite analog and very old. And that old analog infrastructure needs an injection of something, and that could be digital transformation of its methods and its possibilities, just to make it much better than it used to be. And that process will end up with a single infrastructure of mankind. Currently, we have IT infrastructure, we have a railroad infrastructure, we have buildings, the bridge, these are all separate infrastructures run on water system, irrigation, and so on. They are all run as separate infrastructures. That will not be the case in a couple of years from now, because the IT penetration will put them onto the same foundation and onto the same infrastructure, pun intended, and therefore we end up with a single infrastructure of mankind, essentially by and large penetrated or defined by IT technologies, and that's inevitable, and that's not just inevitable, that's desirable, because we will have a more sustainable and environmentally more friendly environment around us, which is one of the goals of Fujitsu's responsible business, as you know. We've got a number of projects in Spain and so on, in particular in the Far East, Japan. Please look at those because the public sector everywhere is keenly interested to learn about this. This is a huge opportunity for us all. Your role is very important. Now, the other dimension I'd like to mention is the dimension of people, us. So you see, what happens is that as everything changes through the digital transformation around us, the very component that stays most analog in this picture is us, the people. We are not turning digital, at least most of us are not. The human body is very analog, and that is a problem. That is a problem because health issues, aging, and all the problems that are coming at us because of aging societies and so on have got to do with this analog nature. In a digital world, there is no aging, there is no health issues, something of that kind. And therefore, that's a very special area where it's mostly analog, and because it's mostly analog, the opportunities for digital transformation are huge. And I'm not just talking about wearables and injectables and robots in the bloodstream and things like that, but also other software technologies such as big data analysis, the analytics of all kinds, predictive analytics of figuring out with what probability, who in particular, if you look at the genes of people, you know, who is with what kind of probability facing what kind of issue, and you can do a lot about it. We are having a number of projects. Finland, I saw a number of Finnish guys here. Finland, Ireland, there were projects like that. There's something that we need to do more. This is something that we need to corroborate over time. It's just that financing of this project is not entirely simple, and running it across a huge region like EMEIA, because healthcare is very local, it's very regulated, there are issues crossing the boundaries, and we need partners, good partners, to address the opportunity, because an IT company alone will not be able to transform the healthcare system of any country. It needs to happen in partnerships and so on, and therefore I'd like to ask you to still actively look for these opportunities and figure out what we could do. Let's come to the other dimension, the next dimension, and that's the dimension of business. I'd like to do this very quickly. I'd just like to say that because of the analog world that I described, the businesses that we have, the organizations that we have, are analog. Analog means they tend to be large, they tend to be slow, and they tend to be very hierarchical. Digital businesses are not like that at all. Look at startups and other companies who do pure play digital services. These are smaller, these are have much less levels of hierarchy, very much more agile, very much more discussion and oriented. Finding a decision is a quick process and so on. And I would argue that every company who would like to engage in digital transformation of this kind will have to become more similar to that over time. Less hierarchy, direct interaction. And you are going to play an important part in that, because the knowledge and the experience and the advice from people like you in the company is of paramount interest for us all to figure out where to take the company to and how to implement the new stuff. We need your creativity because artificial intelligence does many, many things, and we will be discussing the jobs in a second. But in contrast to what happened in the past times in big transformations, artificial intelligence will cut through the levels of hierarchies. It's not only the lowest levels of hierarchy where jobs will be taken out, but across, because decision-making systems are becoming not so good. A management level of hierarchies where only simple decisions about resources are being made are really not that difficult to do via software. So AI cuts across, not just horizontally, but vertically too, and because of that, this whole process of digital transformation will lead to a change in business and society. Society will change too, and that's because if you change the people, I'm all sure of that. You change their infrastructure, you change their business, and you're essentially changing the society. And there are lots of people who study this problem of what's going to happen to our traditional societies in the days of total penetration of digital transformation and artificial intelligence. And there are issues. Let's be very clear about that. There are issues. And there are debates too, but there are issues because, frankly, we don't know what's going to happen if millions of jobs are eliminated through the automation and the transformation in general, the redefinition of value chains as companies go and grab the entire value chain, the entire life cycle management, from the idea of the product till the recycling the product, including the very profitable maintenance business, into a single value chain based on the data that they're collecting, and integrate and optimize the whole thing. That will lead to a restructuring of society. In fact, I like to call this process now, I like to say that our society will become digitally remastered. Using the old term. So we don't know. There's a debate how many jobs are in danger, and we don't know the net effect. Conventional wisdom says, yeah, but there are always new jobs that will be created too, so we are good. We don't know that this time around, whether that's going to be the case. Which is why it's so important that societies are preparing and bracing themselves for this new era, in particular the transition period of the next 5 years, because we need different skills, we need different education, different thinking, different types of everything. And within our company, I'd like you to be the driving force for this, because education in none of the countries, education will not keep up. Let's not expect, well, we can demand and discuss with the political leadership in any country how education, school education, university education needs to change. Let's be clear about it's not going to be coming fast enough. And for that reason, we need inside of the company a group of Fujitsu distinguished engineers to drive the necessary skills and the new sentiment and the new technologies that are needed for the remastered society. Now, certainly speaking, in my books, the last one is not the dimension of the problem, but at this conference, Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers Conference, I have to mention that there is, of course, the aspect of IT, and in particular IT infrastructure, because we do our whole work with IT. And as I said, it's a sweeping change of all components of the business. It's a business transformation, but it's driven by IT. So there's like almost a natural division of labor in which the customers and the expert groups of the customers are bringing in the business aspects, and we bring in the technology aspect. We call that co-creation. So there's this natural division of labor, but the question begs itself, how is this going to change the IT infrastructure of our customers and our own? And this is when new terms have been invented, and the situation has been described by other companies as bimodal or two-speed IT, fast IT, slow IT, agile IT, robust IT. These are the words that are being used to portray two, as they claim, fundamentally different parts of this of the IT infrastructure. One that is being used for mission-critical existing IT loads, and the other one that's being used for the innovative stuff and the agile and the implementation of the new ideas. That's mostly cloud-based and so on. And so that every time when something like this happens, of course, the new value proposition is possible, and the new value proposition is then to say hybrid will be the good approach. And there are, and in fact, this is our own value proposition too. It's going strong. Customers are interested. It gives them a comforting feeling that a company like Fujitsu will be able to take them to new levels and into the new era without having to throw out all the previous investment. So this is all fine, but the question begs itself, what's at the end of this road? And quite arguably, the debate is still going on. At the end of the road is not two-speed IT. At the end of the road, quite possibly, there is only one IT. And that IT is by necessity agile. So it could happen that the hybrid value proposition over time, like in 5 years from now or so, is not a strong one, because by that time, large parts of IT operation move into some sort of external or internal cloud, on-premise or off-premise, a mixture of that, so the hybrid aspect still stays in that respect, but altogether it's all agile, and it's all very fast and very rapidly changing, and this is the question that I would like to ask you all to spend time on. Again, there is the question of what do we do now in the running projects. That's a transitory phase. There we quite possibly need to do and propose other things to customers than what we will do in 5 years from now. But we've got to have a notion of where the IT infrastructure is going over time. So these consequences altogether are very dramatic in all these dimensions as we discussed, and altogether that it will be a sweeping change. That's really dramatic. In one of the old, thick, big books of mankind, it says, not one stone will be left upon another. All right? What that means in translation is that those stones will be all thrown up in the air, and they will be falling down on somebody's feet. And the role of the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers is, we expect you to do that, to prevent that the stones thrown up in the air will be falling down on our feet as a company or on our customers' feet as our cherished customers. That's your role. You're going to be in the front line trying to prevent that. Now, this whole dynamic, the digital transformation is progressing very, very fast, which is why the Fellows decided that this year's theme is going to be digital transformation. So this whole event is designed to help you to get to the forefront of all these discussions. So keynotes, birds of a feather, and so on, all providing you information so that you can collect ammunition for this process. We've got to be leading it as Fujitsu, as company, and inside of the company, you've got to be the group at the forefront of all this. So do what we already said you should do at the conference. Walk around, talk to people, enjoy it like last night and tonight. I'm sure you're going to be enjoying it tonight. But learn about the new things, learn about the new possibilities, exchange opinion, and remember, knowledge is indivisible. If you share it with somebody, it doesn't mean you have less. It actually, most of the time, means you have more, because the sharing process teaches you something too. The other party certainly will have more of that. And because of this indivisible nature of knowledge, I'd like to ask you to do what the Fujitsu Distinguished Engineers Program is designed for. Share your knowledge, learn from the others, so that we can be one of the driving forces of digital transformation. Thank you.